Welcome back, our dear viewers. As we have promised earlier at the beginning of the show, that today we are going to tackle the Egyptian-Slovenian relations in light of the recent visit by the President of Slovenia to Egypt, his meetings with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. He did also attend the Egyptian-Slovenian Business Forum. To shed more light, we are very much delighted to have with us in the studio Her Excellency Ambassador Tanja Miskova, the Slovenian Ambassador to Egypt. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Excellency. Now, the importance of the Slovenian president's visit in light of the current events, and especially that this meeting has been planned for long, but it did not occur till this December. So from your point of view, the significance of it?
Yes, well, as you said, we have planned this visit for quite a long time. It was originally planned for January 2011, and for obvious reasons it did not happen. You know, we've developed, since Slovenia's independence in 1991, very close and very diverse relations, very diverse cooperation with Egypt. So the visit in January 2011 was going to highlight all the achievements in this 20 years of relations and cooperation, and give an additional push forward. Yes. Of course, we had to postpone it then, but now we thought it was a very good time, given the fact that Egypt went through the political transition, the roadmap is finished. Slovenia also, in the meantime, went through a severe economic crisis, and we have managed to pull out, and we are on a very good track of economic growth and recovery. So we thought that this would be a very opportune moment for the relations to be given an additional boost, that this kind of visit represents. And additionally, as you've mentioned, the difficult situation that we're facing on both sides of the Mediterranean, the President, by visiting Jordan and Egypt, as basically the only two stable, stable countries, beacons of stability, I would say, in the region, he wanted to show that we give tremendous importance of dialogue with these two countries that represent the model of moderation and stability in the region.
Your Excellency, what of the agenda of the talks between the Slovenian President and, of course, the Egyptian President?
Well, there were, two major sets of topics. Of course, the first one is the bilateral relations, where we can find to identify an agenda where we can move things forward. And the second part was the situation in the region,
of course,
and everything it entails, from the situation in Syria, in Libya, in Iraq, the Middle East peace process, or the Palestinian issue, then of course the fight against terrorism, against radicalization, and the migration issue. So these were the basic topics that were discussed during the visit.
Your Excellency, before the interview, as we were talking, you talked to me about the Slovenian experience and how you managed to recuperate from the instability that occurs following your independence. Yes. So would you talk to us more about it on air?
Yes, it was a very difficult period for Slovenia. Excuse me. Because we were part of this big country which was internationally well recognized and well positioned. Indeed. Yugoslavia was an important country, but unfortunately it didn't work. It dissolved. So we were forced to find our own way, and we were ready to do that. It was a process in the making. We were ready. The people were united. We're determined to go our own way, and we really, everybody put their share in, and we managed to overcome all the challenges. We lost the Yugoslav market overnight, which was a huge shock to our economy, but we were lucky that even before the dissolution of Yugoslavia, most of our exports went to the European markets. So this is what basically saved us. We also had a good industrial basis, which was innovative and able to adapt to new circumstances. We have well-educated, well-trained workforce. So all this helped the right policies that were put in place by the government. And of course, we had a very important stimulus, which was the decision very early on to join European Union and NATO. So especially the joining of the European Union gave us a set of goals, a set of reforms we needed to do in order to join.
Indeed.
So this was a very important push for everything we needed to do in order to progress. And it proved to be a very successful path. We continued to grow for 20 years non-stop. You know, we were considered a success story of the former, I would say, Eastern Bloc. So we did well for 20 years, and then came another challenge of the Eurozone financial crisis.
Indeed.
We are part of the Eurozone, so we were badly hit. But again, we managed to pull through. We had to do some very painful, necessary reforms in the worst of times, but we did it. And we are now, again, experiencing healthy growth rates. Our unemployment is diminishing. The exports have a very strong growth, so we are on a good track.
Yes. Your Excellency, how can we enhance the trade and economic cooperation between both countries, Egypt and Slovenia? And up to now, the level of trade between both countries had reached about 380 million euros.
Well, the visits such as the President is one of the ways, because it gives visibility to both countries.
Indeed.
The President was accompanied by 15 Slovenian companies, and we devised the composition of the delegation in a way that we encouraged the companies that can participate in development projects. Companies that have very strong, I would say, financial and innovation capacity, that have I would say, the experience and the knowledge to and the potential, even in the medium or the long term, to engage in higher forms of cooperation with Egyptian partners, such as joint ventures or even direct investments in the future. So during the visit, we did several matchmaking events. One of them was, as you mentioned, the Business Forum, which was very successful. 3 memorandums of understanding were signed during the conference between the Slovenian and the Egyptian companies. And of course, we encouraged the Egyptian companies to also come to Slovenia. We've had actually this year 2 business delegations from Egypt in Slovenia. One was in May, led by the chairman of the Canadian Egyptian Business Council, Mu'taz Raslan. He visited with a group of businessmen, was received also by some at the political level, which shows that we give high importance to such visits. And then in September, we had the visit of the Egyptian Freight Forwarders Association. They visited our port of Koper. We have an excellent port, which we present here every year. In March, we have a so-called Port of Koper Day, where our port presents its capacities. And the way it's positioned and the way it functions, it really represents a perfect gateway for Egyptian products. And for example, in 2015, all of the Egyptian grapes exports went through this port. So this is a very important, I would say, field of cooperation between the 2 countries. So the cooperation between the two, between the port of Koper and the ports of Egypt.
Your Excellency, also, as you have kindly mentioned, the Egyptian-Slovenian Business Forum. To what extent that forum could help in attracting investors, Slovenian investors, to Egypt, and of course for Egyptian investors to go and invest in Slovenia on the other side? Well,
I'm happy to say that we have a very positive example of Egyptian investment in Slovenia. In 2008, Ahmed El-Swidi of El-Swidi Electric bought a Slovenian company, a huge Slovenian company with 2,000 employees producing electricity meters. The company at the time was in bad shape. and he saw the potential in it, invested, and now it's a great success story. Just last week they celebrated the 70th anniversary and opened a new production line. So it's been a great example of what Egyptian investments can contribute to the Slovenian economy, and I hope there will be more cases like that.
Yes, indeed.
And of course, in the opposite direction, I would say Slovenian companies are definitely interested in Egypt, not only because it's a huge market, but also because Egypt has a very good strategic position. And because it has numerous free trade agreements with African countries and the Gulf countries. So basically it makes every sense to have a production line here, because it opens the gates to the African market, where we are underrepresented. We have not really penetrated the African markets yet. So we see Egypt as a perfect base for that.
Yes, indeed.
Your Excellency, I'd like to know, how can we benefit from the Slovenian experience in terms of startups? Because I understand that actually the government of Slovenia is encouraging startups, and it's booming right now in Slovenia.
Yes, you know, Slovenia has a very good, I would say, research and development infrastructure, in terms that we produce wonderful researchers and innovators. But until recently, they were not able to, they didn't know how to market their knowledge. In terms of government investment in the R&D, it's one of the highest in the world. But the results in terms of, you know, marketing that knowledge were not very good. The connection between companies and researchers, between the businesses and researchers and universities was not there. So the government changed that. They tried to encourage those connections. That was one step they did. Another step was to enable to create the enabling environment for startups to prosper. So technological parks were established across the country, in the capital and in other cities all over Slovenia, where the startups have the space and the means to be creative. And a very important aspect also, the government introduced entrepreneurship classes, not only in universities, which is of course key, but also in high schools. So 1/3 of Slovenian high schools now have entrepreneurial classes as extracurricular activities, which I think is extremely important. So the government also used EU funds and its own funds to enable the startups, you know, to find funding for their innovations. So this all this set of there were many other measures, but these are just the main ones, which created in the last 2 years a huge breakthrough. Just to give you an example, the startups started around 2006, and their number and success was not very impressive until 2 years ago, when all these measures were put in place. And in the last 2 years, we saw a big boom in the number of startups and in their success rates. So, for example, last year they managed to generate 127 million euros, which was twice the amount that was generated, you know, the 10 years before. And it was an important, you know, breakthrough, and in different fields. And we think this is the right way for the young people to prosper, especially that during the financial crisis, the unemployment rate was the highest among the young people. So this was a very important way to enable the young, educated, innovative people to get their means and to become an independent and successful.
Your Excellency, the Egyptian-Slovenian relations in light of the tourism. How do you see both countries' relations in light of tourism? Do you believe that enough tourists from Slovenia are coming to Egypt and vice versa, or we need to boost that sector as well?
Well, we definitely would need an encouragement in both sides, on both sides. From Slovenia, you know, we don't keep statistics so as to how many Slovenians visit Egypt, because also many of them would travel with German or Austrian tour operators. So in this case, we couldn't have the numbers. Many travel, you know, in their own arrangement individually. So again, we could not have this statistic. But definitely the numbers are down from what they used to be a couple of years ago, or even before 2011, when people would come en masse to Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada and so on. They have started to come back. We also have 100 Slovenians who own apartments or villas in Hurghada, and they spend the whole winter there, or you know, they live there, and so retirees or entrepreneurs that can work from their laptop. So we have a nice group of people. Yes, yes. And I think the tourists have started to come back, but it's a slow trickle, which I think can be increased very quickly once the main groups of tourists start to come back, like the Russians and the British. Then you know, they pull the rest of them behind them. But Slovenians, you know, I would say the big groups might wait, but the individual tourists, you know, Slovenians, we love to travel. We're all over. You will find a Slovenian tourist from Papua New Guinea to Peru to Canada to Australia, everywhere. We love to travel. When it comes to the number of Egyptian tourists, judging by the visas we issue, we've been having a steady increase, which we're very happy about, but we need to do more in order to promote Slovenia. I know that Egyptians love to go to spas, and they have to discover Slovenian spas. We have 12 natural resorts, you know, which means that they have water with healing powers for different kinds of treatments. So this is something that we would like to promote very much. And Slovenia is a destination for people who want serenity and natural beauty and peace and quiet. We are not a country that would attract massive crowds. We don't want to build huge resorts that would entertain. This is not who we are. We want people who appreciate the natural sites, the historic sites, the good food, the good wine, and so this is the spas who want to relax. Of course, you know, actually the number of tourists which are growing faster from Egypt are the young people who are going to Slovenia for adrenaline sports, mountain biking, paragliding, rafting, canyoning. This has become, they've discovered Slovenia, it's an ideal spot for that. So I encourage young Egyptians to discover Slovenia.
And the spas as well, and healing is very important.
It is, yes. Especially
because other destinations are very famous with that, and they became more and more crowded these days.
Exactly, yes. Slovenia is not crowded, so if you want to avoid the crowds, welcome to Slovenia.
Well, Your Excellency, I'd like to know, is there a presence of Egyptian investments in Slovenia or not?
Except for the very positive case of Sweden Electric, we haven't seen a major investment, but I think this may change because we've managed to, as I said, attract some business people to come and see. We will keep organizing visits of Egyptian businessmen to Slovenia, and I'm pretty sure that some of them will find opportunities there, either in the industrial sector or in the hospitality sector or in the services sector. We have a very well educated and very dedicated workforce. You know, people who invest in Slovenia will tell you that number one reason why they invested in Slovenia is the workforce. It's very serious, it's very dedicated. You know, people like to stay committed to the company, work hard. So this is one of the top reasons why they want to invest.
Indeed, Ms. Ambassador Tanja Miskova, Slovenian Ambassador to Egypt, it was a pleasure to have you with us today, and we wish all the success in your stay here in Egypt.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
And our dear viewers, of course, the year 2016 did witness many sad events concerning the passing of many of our great actors and stars. We have seen the passing of the late great star Mahmoud Abdelaziz. We have seen, of course, Mamdouh Abdel Alim passed away, Zubeda Sarwat, and many other stars that we have lost during that year 2016. And now we will leave you with that report about the late great actor and star Ahmed Ratib, who did actually pass away a few weeks ago in Egypt here. And with that report, we'll be witnessing more about his life and how he left us in the year 2016. And after that, we'll be back to resume our segment in the Breakfast Show.